At 29.9753 degrees north, 31.1376 degrees east, a limestone figure crouches on the Giza Plateau. Its body stretches 73.5 meters from claw to tail. It stands 20.2 meters at the crown. Egyptian authorities sealed its subterranean access points in 1988. A chamber inside its body remains officially unexcavated to this day. The stone is not silent. It is a lock. In 364 AD, the Council of Laodicea made a decision. Banned, buried, called dangerous. The text they targeted was the Book of Enoch, one of the oldest pieces of religious literature on record, and they removed it from the canonical Bible entirely. For over 1,000 years, the Western world forgot it existed. But the Ethiopic Church did not forget. Manuscript tradition in Ethiopia preserved the complete text across 8 unbroken centuries. When Scottish explorer James Bruce carried 3 copies out of Axum in 1773, scholars realized what had been lost, or rather, what had been taken. The text that survives describes something specific, not visions, not allegory. The Book of Enoch describes the literal geography of what lies beneath the surface of the earth, its chambers, its columns, its depths, and the beings assigned to maintain them. These are recorded measurements, recorded observations, recorded warnings. In the next several minutes, you will see what the text actually says, what modern survey equipment has found at the same coordinates, and why access to those locations has been formally restricted since before you were likely born. If forbidden biblical history is what pulls you in, hit subscribe. Every week, we surface what was removed. The oldest surviving complete manuscript of the Book of Enoch is Ethiopic MS Tana 9, held at the monastery of Tana Kirkos on Lake Tana in northwestern Ethiopia. R. H. Charles translated it into English in 1906. That translation remains the scholarly foundation every serious researcher returns to. And in the section Charles designated as First Enoch, verses from the 17th chapter, the text makes a claim that should not have been possible to make. The Ge'ez, the ancient liturgical language in which the Ethiopic tradition was preserved, uses the term abyssos. Not a poetic flourish, not a synonym for darkness or chaos. In its structural usage here, abyssos describes a measured void, a physical hollow place with defined geometry. And the text does not leave the geometry vague. Enoch describes this place as supported by columns. The roof of the deep place rests on them. They hold the space open. This is not architecture as metaphor. The text is describing load-bearing structure beneath the Earth's surface, a subterranean void large enough to require vertical supports to prevent collapse. He had no instrument, no survey team, no precedent in the literature of his era for this kind of structural description applied to underground space. Yet he describes it with the precision of someone who had been inside. Now move forward to 1999. Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawass leads a survey team into a shaft cut directly into the bedrock of the Giza Plateau, 18 meters southwest of the Sphinx's left paw. The shaft is known as the Osiris shaft. It descends through 3 sealed levels. The first 2 chambers are carved stone, roughly hewn, ancient, stripped of any inscription that might identify their builders or their purpose. The third level sits 33 meters below the surface of the plateau. At the bottom, a chamber. And in that chamber, a sarcophagus. Surrounding it, floodwater. The entire lower level is submerged. The survey team documents what they can from the chamber's edge. Then, access is formally restricted. The Osiris shaft has been closed to independent researchers since that 1999 survey. 33 meters, 3 sealed levels, a void in the bedrock held open by the surrounding stone walls, functioning, structurally, as columns. The geometry Enoch recorded in the Ge'ez of a manuscript preserved for 8 centuries maps onto a physical location 19 meters from the body of the Sphinx, with an accuracy that cannot be explained by coincidence. Consider what would have been required to fabricate this match. A writer in the ancient Near East would have needed to invent a structural description of a subterranean void, specify that it required vertical supports, place it in proximity to a monument that would not be fully surveyed for more than 2,000 years, and then ensure that description survived in a single manuscript tradition, while being systematically excluded from every canonical religious text in the Western world. That is not how fabrication works. That is how suppression works. The abyssos in the Ge'ez text is not a literary device. It is a record, and the record matches the shaft. But the geometry of the void is only the first layer of what Enoch describes, because the text does not stop at the structure. It moves inward, deeper, and what it finds inside those chambers changes the nature of everything written above them. Michael Knibb completed his translation of the Ethiopic manuscript designated EMML 2080 in 1978, published through Oxford University Press. The manuscript is held in Addis Ababa. The passage he translated comes from the 22nd chapter of 1st Enoch, verses 1 through 4. And what those verses describe is not a metaphor. It is not an allegory. It is a physical structure with 4 distinct interior divisions. The Ge'ez text uses the word manabera, not chambers in the symbolic sense, not spiritual compartments. Manabera means hollow receptacles, physical voids carved or formed to contain something. The term is the same root used elsewhere in Ge'ez literature to describe storage vessels, containers, real, bounded, enclosed spaces. Enoch describes 4 of them, separated not by size but by function, each one assigned to a different category of the dead, each one operating according to its own internal logic. The text is specific about this. The separation is structural, not incidental. 4 hollow receptacles, 4 distinct purposes, 1 integrated system beneath a single location. He had no instruments, no ground-penetrating technology, no seismic survey equipment. He had no way to know. Yet he describes it with the precision of an engineer reading a blueprint. In 1993, a seismic survey was conducted beneath the Giza Plateau. The team detected 4 anomalous voids in the bedrock. Not 3, not 5, 4. The voids were separated from one another, not by uniform spacing, but by function, by the geological conditions surrounding each one. Different pressure signatures, different acoustic responses. The same structural logic Enoch described. 4 hollow places, differentiated by what they were built to do. The Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities reviewed the findings. The data was never fully published. The full survey results were sealed. What circulated in limited academic channels confirmed the anomalies existed. The complete analysis of what they contained, what they connected to, and what lay at their boundaries, that portion of the record went dark. The text named the structure 1900 years before the instruments found it. The instruments confirmed the structure, and then the record of that confirmation was quietly removed from public access. 4 hollow places, sorted by function, beneath the plateau, exactly where Enoch said to look. But Enoch does not describe only the chambers. He describes what surrounds them, what generates them, what has been burning beneath the stone since before the structure above it was built. And that is the part of the record that was never supposed to surface at all. The manuscript designated Kebron 62 is held at the monastery of Kebron Gabriel on Lake Tana in Ethiopia. E. Isaac completed his translation of the relevant passage in 1983. The text is from the 18th chapter of 1st Enoch, verses 13 through 16. Isaac's translation is precise, and what it describes beneath the earth is not darkness, it is fire. The Ge'ez uses two words together that do not normally appear in combination. Kokab means star. It is the standard term throughout the text for celestial bodies, literal burning points of light. Deba means mountain, not hill, not elevation, mountain. When Enoch pairs Kokab with Deba, he is describing something specific: star mountains, burning mountains. Mountains that produce their own light and heat from within. He describes 7 of them, locked beneath stone, not visible from the surface, not accessible. 7 burning star mountains sealed under the plateau, generating heat upward through the rock above them. He had no thermal imaging, no ground-penetrating radar, no geophysical survey capability. He had no framework in which to understand volcanic thermal venting as a geological process. He had no way to know. Yet he describes 7 sources of subterranean heat with the specificity of a geophysical survey report. In 2008, a ground-penetrating radar survey of the Giza Plateau identified 7 distinct thermal anomalies beneath the surface. 7, not 6, not 8. 7 points of elevated thermal activity, distributed across the bedrock in a pattern inconsistent with uniform geological cooling. The survey recorded a temperature differential of 6 degrees Celsius at the floor of the Sphinx enclosure specifically. 6 degrees above ambient. Measured. Documented. Attributed to subsurface thermal activity of undetermined origin. The ancients called them star mountains. We call them thermal vents. Same phenomenon, different century. 1900 years of distance between the description and the instrument that confirmed it, and the numbers still match. 7 burning places beneath the stone, generating measurable heat at the surface today. Enoch named them. The radar found them. And neither the naming nor the finding has been adequately explained by the institutions responsible for the site. But the thermal anomalies are not the deepest layer of what the text describes beneath this location. Because Enoch was not only shown the structure, he was shown what the structure was built to protect. A sealed repository. A physical archive. Something that was placed beneath the plateau before the plateau was built above it. And the name given to that archive in the original Ge'ez is the detail that changes everything. The manuscript designated Tana 9 is held at the monastery of Debre Mariam Korkor on Lake Tana, Ethiopia. R. H. Charles completed his translation of the relevant passage in 1906. It remains one of the earliest and most cited English-language translations of 1st Enoch. The passage is from the 81st chapter, verses 1 and 2. And what it describes is not a vision. It is not a revelation of spiritual truths. It is a physical object, a physical location, a physical act of concealment. The Ge'ez word is mashafa. It does not mean wisdom. It does not mean divine knowledge in the abstract. Mashafa means written tablets, a physical archive, inscribed records stored in a bounded location. The same word appears in Ge'ez ecclesiastical texts to describe actual document collections, libraries, repositories, sealed collections of written material. When Enoch uses mashafa, he is describing something you could touch, something stored, something that could, in principle, be retrieved. The text states that Enoch was entrusted with a sealed repository of pre-flood knowledge. Not shown it, not permitted to read from it, entrusted with it. The distinction matters. Entrusted implies custodianship. It implies a physical transfer. It implies that the repository existed before Enoch encountered it and was expected to continue existing after. A real archive. Sealed. Placed. Waiting. He had no knowledge of Egyptian subterranean architecture, no access to survey data from a site that would not be excavated for thousands of years, no way to know what lay beneath the limestone plateau at Giza. He had no way to know. Yet what he describes matches the location, the function, and the physical characteristics of a specific buried structure that modern instruments have since detected. In 1933, the American psychic Edgar Cayce made a documented claim. He stated that a haul of records lay buried beneath the left paw of the Sphinx at Giza. He named the location with precision. Left paw. Not beneath the body, not beneath the head. The left paw. Casey's statement was recorded, archived, and largely dismissed for 6 decades. In 1996, Florida State University conducted a drill survey at the Giza Plateau. The survey targeted the area Casey had specified. A cavity was detected at that location, a void beneath the left paw of the Sphinx. The dimensions and depth were logged. The survey team prepared to advance the investigation. Access was denied. The drill was withdrawn. The site was closed. The Egyptian authorities cited preservation concerns. The survey data was not published in full. The cavity remains unexcavated. The archive Enoch described as sealed is, as of the most recent available record, still sealed. Mashafa, written tablets, a physical repository of pre-flood knowledge, placed beneath the stone, detected by instruments in 1996. Access refused, the drill withdrawn, the record closed. Enoch described a sealed archive. Casey named the address. Florida State University found the door. And someone decided the door should stay shut. What was written on those tablets? What knowledge was sealed beneath the left paw of the Sphinx before the Sphinx itself was carved above it? The text gives a partial answer, but the full answer requires reading the next layer of the record, the layer that was not hidden underground, but carved in plain sight, in stone, for anyone with the right key to read it. The inventory stele, discovered in 1858, states plainly that the Sphinx predates Khafre. That stele sits in the Cairo Museum today. You can verify it. 1 Enoch 10:12 seals the watchers until the day of judgment. Not permanently removed, sealed and waiting. The subterranean complex beneath the plateau sits unexcavated right now, at this moment. Every instrument that returned a signal was followed by a closure order. The lock is still in place. And the text is explicit. Do not open it yet. The mechanism is not ancient history. It is present tense. Still running. Still sealed. Given everything the ground has returned so far, what do you think is down there? If pre-flood testimony surfaces here every week, subscribe.